Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. College football on Thursday. Arizona State improved to 3-0 with a 31-28 win at Texas State. 4 touchdowns, 268 passing yards for Joe McLeod. South Alabama ran away with an 87-10 victory over Northwestern State. 2 games on the schedule tonight. 1-1 Kansas at home against 2-0 UNLV. Top 20 matchup for number 14 Kansas State. The 2-0 Wildcats hosting the 2-0 Arizona Wildcats, who are number 20.
Back to pass. Allen wide open to Cook in the left flat. Racing to the end zone. And is he in? Yes, he is. The Cook has found the kitchen.
The action on Bills Radio, 31-10, the win over the Dolphins last night in Miami. Buffalo 2-0 with the win. The Dolphins dropped to 1-1. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Progressive presents Renters MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Emily Neal's 70-inch TV. Because after watching her second-grade students yell at each other for hours, there's nothing Emily enjoys more than watching super-rich housewives also yell at each other. Why? Because those women are not her responsibility. And that's why her TV is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
You might wonder, John Legend, how do you keep your voice sounding so legendary? Honey. And how do I keep my protection against COVID-19 up to date? With a COVID shot this season, designed for recent variants.
You can get your COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot if you're due for both, as recommended by the CDC.
The fresher, the better.
Ask your healthcare provider about getting this season's COVID-19 shot when getting your flu shot.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
If SportsGrid was a burrito, we'd be the one with steak and carnitas packed so full every bite made your cheeks poof out like Dizzy Gillespie, so the name's stuck and now even your mother calls you Dizzy. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline, with the 2 best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, listen, I don't know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the SportsGrid Radio Network, SiriusXM Channel 159.
The best hour of your day now officially underway. It's Moneyline on a Football Friday, SiriusXM Channel 159. Absolutely the place to be. And also, if you're out here in the chat box, which I am going to update, SportsGrid on demand. I'm going to hit the refresh button. So hopefully we are live. Let me scroll down. And we are. Click in, ready to go, feeling good. So as you guys know, we do have visual aids here while we're on the radio. SportsGrid on demand. Make sure you're getting over there and hitting the, I don't know, the like button. How about the subscribe button? Let me see what we got here. Look at that. We have more subscribers today on SportsGrid on demand than we did yesterday. So we are doing our job out there, having some fun. You can get some visuals on us while we can get some correspondence back with our audience here. Fantastic stuff. Thank you guys for checking us out. And if anybody comes in the chat box, wants to say hello, certainly give you a shout out. If you have any plays, if you have any picks, if you have any comments, that is the place to do it. And also, thanks for tuning in here on SiriusXM Channel 159, SportsGrid Network. It's how we get down. It's Donnie Rightside. It is a solo mission today. Technically, because as you know, on Football Fridays, Kevin Walsh is off for the day, and we go over the cards Saturday and Sunday, have some fun, maybe talk a little bit of Major League Baseball. But today, in the next segment, you know who's going to join us today? Special guest. That's one Jeff Nadeau, the big man on campus. He might say he's going to retire the big man on campus handle, but that's how I know the big man on campus. So he'll join us to go over that Saturday card and Sunday action. We'll have a lot of fun, chop it up, see what's going down, but more importantly, the hot topics of the day that we have to get to. And I wasn't on the early line today because why? I don't get home typically till 1:30 or so in the morning from a long studio day the night before. So I do got to get a little beauty rest. And today, people, I was able to sleep until 9 o'clock. What? Oh, did it feel good? Oh, it felt great. But still, warming up the voice here and getting after it for the next hour, yeah, I got you covered on that, which also means setting up what happened in the studio last night, watching the football game between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. 31-10 final. Once again, the Bills absolutely Hulk smash the Miami Dolphins. It's like what they typically do. Coming into that game, you know me. It's either home team or no team on Thursday Night Football, but there are caveats. And early in the season, the home teams here don't have such a big advantage because why? Really, the attrition kicks in late in the season. Week 7, 8, 9, 10, and throughout that time, you're going to be much more banged up and injured than you are and feeling bad. Like, I don't know if I want to get out of bed today, right? It usually doesn't happen earlier in the year. You're still excited to play football games. It's still new. You played one game last week. You went on the road. Boy, the Buffalo Bills really kicked the tails of the Dolphins last night. We're going to get into the bigger news of that game, but if you take a look at Josh Allen, 13 of 19, 139 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He didn't have to do anything. It felt like watching that game yesterday, guys, with James Cook. He had 11 carries for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. It felt like he had 350 yards yesterday on the ground. Barely needed to use him. Ray Davis actually got 9 carries yesterday off the bench for 29 yards, which I know Kevin Walsh was excited from that one, cashing on a ticket on Sweet Baby Ray to go over like 11 and a half rushing yards. But it wasn't so much the Buffalo Bills because they were the better team by far yesterday, but it was what happened with the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, week number 1, watching the tapes back, they were lucky they didn't get beat by the Jacksonville Jaguars. A strip of the running back Travis Etienne on the goal line for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Got the ball back to the Dolphins, down 17-7, 80-yard touchdown pass, momentum shifts, they end up winning that football game, and that's good. That's what you're supposed to do. Sometimes you're a little bit rusty over there, right, in game number 1, and you still won. Now you were home, you had a chance. It was plus 180, both sides, for the futures bets between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins to win the division coming in. I didn't get a chance to technically check in just yet to see what those odds are, but obviously they shifted dramatically, and not only because of the loss, but because of what happened last night with Tua Tagovailoa. The game really probably was, I want to say, not in doubt, right, when he got injured. But it was a 4th down play. He converts it with his legs, but decided for some reason to put his head down and try to drive through DeMar Hamlin. That didn't work out all that well. And you saw so many times in the past when you see guys with bad concussions, they go into that fencing maneuver, which means you're on your back. You don't really have that grasp of your limbs, specifically your hands and your fingers, and you sort of hold them out, and they're sort of like, rigid at that point. And everybody in the studio, myself, Kevin, and also Joe Lisi, you knew what it was right away. And it was devastation because you start to think to yourself, on a human level, that's kind of scary to see, specifically with the guy that has had a concussion history and some bad concussions to deal with. And that was tough in itself. But if they were going to claw back or try to get some momentum, it all stopped there. Skylar Thompson came in the game after that, handed the football off twice on 1st and goal, stopped, incomplete pass, and then a sack on 4th down. And then it was basically a running clock the rest of the way. And the Bills win by 21 points. But the questions now come up on Tua Tagovailoa and what happens here. Shout out Akbar out here hanging out in the chat box with us here on SportsGrid On Demand, watching us live on YouTube. Thank you, everybody listening here to SiriusXM Radio, SiriusXM Channel 159, and SportsGrid Radio, SportsGridRadio.com. Shout it out. There's so many different ways you can get a hold of us, which includes the SportsGrid app, one of the best in the business. But Tagovailoa was down. 17 of 25 passing, 17 of 25, 145 yards. But how about this? 3 interceptions. Now, I want to say this. One of those interceptions was Will Levis-esque. Stupid, throw the football away, can't do it, doesn't have enough arm strength, easy pick 6 down the sideline. You can't do that as a veteran quarterback. Rule number 1, that basically ended the game, it felt like, in a moment's notice. But the other 2 interceptions, one was a perfect pass that bounced off the shoulder pad of a wide receiver. The other one, Robbie Anderson, Robbie, whatever you want to call him, ran the wrong route, stopped short. Thought he was going on basically an out route, which should have been a corner route. Easy interception for the Buffalo Bills. But Tua didn't look great last night. But now you say to yourself, what's the future of the Miami Dolphins? Where are the Miami Dolphins going from here? Because the thing I was trying to bring up in the studio last night is you don't get a mulligan in the NFL, even for injury or retirement. If you sign a football player to that amount of money that you did with Tua Tagovailoa, that contract is going to run its course. You are going to take a massive cap hit if he can't play again. And quite frankly, that cap hit would be so large, you probably have to spread it out to over 2 to 3 years, which means you're carrying a franchise quarterback paycheck along with the next quarterback that you're going to try to bring in. Now, that's down the road. We actually don't know exactly the case. And if you heard Mike McDaniel in his post-game press conference last night, he doesn't know. They're going to start the evaluation process today. He will be cleared at some point, but the question is, does the clearance mean he's coming back to football, or it's like, hey, buddy, You got your big contract. You got a signing bonus here. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure there's some insurances behind that. They're going to pay him out a lot of money. We're talking about Tua Tagovailoa, and that's probably the most important thing. But the one thing I do disagree with sometimes is we are watching in a sports landscape, and we're human beings, and we generally care about the athletes. But questions come up right away. Like, it's unfair for Mike McDaniel to say last night, quote, "I totally get where people want to go. I just wish for a second people would hear what I'm saying. That's bringing up his future is not in the best interest of him." Yes, it is, because we're caring individuals. We're also football fans at the same time. He has to understand he's going to get those questions right off the bat. No questions asked. He's going to get that. That's what happens. That's when you're a football coach. When we watch things in real time, people are going to say, what was the prognosis? He got a concussion. What does that mean, Mike, for his future? And of course, Mike McDaniel doesn't know his future at this point. We don't know his future. Tua Tagovailoa doesn't know his future. But there are going to be some hard conversations behind the scenes with Tua and his family, and rightfully so. That's tough what you saw last night, coming off of some bad concussions he's had in the past. Now, will he be able to come back if he wants to? Probably so. Looking at the schedule, they got a couple winnable games on their schedule. Well, maybe winnable if they had Tua Tagovailoa, but if they can just stay, around that 500 level. They do have a bye week in a couple weeks, and we're just looking right now at this point, right? We don't know when he's coming back or if he is at all, but we have every right to ask those questions and also have a human compassion on top of here. It's Moneyline. It's a Football Friday. The big man on campus waiting in the green room. We'll bring him up next. More fun on the way right here on Moneyline.
You may or may not be a good SportsGrid listener. If you've ever used the term toxic masculinity, you were probably not. Just a hunch. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Wisconsin officials were working Thursday to retrieve a boat that sank during the search for a missing diver in Lake Michigan. Multiple agencies joined the search for 72-year-old Patrick Kelly of Winthrop Harbor, Illinois, after he failed to surface Tuesday while driving around the wreck of the SS Wisconsin about 6 miles off the coast of Pleasant Prairie. Searchers recovered Kelly's body Wednesday. Kenosha County officials say they are working with the State Department of Natural Resources to retrieve the boat. A Northern California man has been arrested on a federal complaint alleging he assaulted Frontier Airlines flight attendants after takeoff, forcing the San Francisco-bound flight to divert to another airport. The 30-year-old Fremont man is charged with interference with flight crew members and attendants. The passenger allegedly shouted obscenities at flight attendants, attempted to choke a flight attendant, kicked another attendant in the leg, and said he was going to kill everybody on the September 9th flight out of John Wayne Airport in Santa Ana. He faces a statutory maximum sentence of 20 years in federal prison. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
If I was to describe this sandwich in one word, I would say magical. Hi, this is Jamor, and the little thing that I love about the Chick-fil-A honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich is that extra oomph. I go back and forth from the spicy filet to the original filet. I get into the sweetness of the honey, then you have the extra kick from the spicy filet. The combination alone takes it over the top. It's award-winning.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy filet, now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonial.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
It's stark but true. You can either listen to SportsGrid for strategies, odds,
and more,
or you can pay your bills by selling plasma.
You can always tell the second kind as they look kind of pale.
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Right back at it here on Moneyline. Donnie Wright's out here on a Football Friday, Sirius XM Channel 159, bringing on a special guest right now. It's the big man on campus. It's Jeff Nadeau. We're going to do this a lot during football season. Football with Jeff. Nothing better at this point, Jeff. How we feeling? Week 2 NFL, Week 3 college football, baby.
Best time of the year, isn't it? I mean, we got September weather's coming in. It's cool at night. Starting to see some pumpkins on the doorsteps. It's a good time of the year. And we're starting to get some data now, which is good. We're into week 3 in college football. It's a good week in the NFL to kind of go against some of the things you saw last week. It's a great time.
Akbar's in the chat box out here. Jordan Pensili, Chris Warren, Mammoth, all saying hello to the big man on campus. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, having some fun. We're going to get after it now. But I did want to start, as you guys know, opening up the show with talking about Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. Yesterday, Jeff, it looked like I was on my way to making some pretty good money. I had touchdown props anytime on Josh Allen and also Cook. Cook scores right off the bat at a plus 175. Also had a prop bet, plus 135 for 4 touchdown passes total in the game. Didn't matter what quarterback. I got 2 right off of the bat. I end up losing money last night, but the bigger deal is the Miami Dolphins scored 10 points, got hammered, and Tua Tagovailoa, Jeff, another concussion.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of feel bad for Tua Tagovailoa at this point. I mean, listen, I don't know why you're inviting contact to that level, right? Why aren't you sliding? Why are you continuously trying to go at people like that? That said, I mean, this leaves them in a real conundrum because this is now, 3 concussions in 2 years for Tagovailoa. They just paid him a bunch of money. But the problem that we're dealing with here is this is not just maybe he'll get some headaches the rest of his life. This is a thought of life or death, right? He could die over this. He could, down the road, do some things that he's not knowing he's doing because of head injuries and issues with himself mentally. So it's a shame, man. It really is. I hope he gets the help he needs. Something tells me he's going to retire. I don't know why. I don't know what the stipulations in his contract is, but I mean, you're not dealing with, again, some headaches. You're dealing with, if you get hurt again, I mean, it could be fatal.
Yes, and see, that's the tough part about it because football players are manly men, no doubt about it, Jeff, right? They want to play at all cost. Now, there's something different about coming back from a shoulder surgery, an elbow surgery, knee injuries, Achilles. But the one thing that you do know now, and also maybe 20 years ago, we didn't know the science behind like CTE. Every single time you take that devastating hit, you know you're not going to pay for it now, and you're larger than life, and you might be able to come back, Jeff, but you're right about this. Talk about a guy in his 40s, in his 50s, in his 60s who just can't get around anymore because of the blows to the head. And it's not even like repeated ones. Like, okay, I don't know the symptoms. Like you are seeing that fencing mechanism when he's getting hit, which means that's like a Control-Alt-Delete brain shutdown for a couple minutes, which is so scary. It was great to see him walk off the field where in Cincinnati, that looked like he, unbelievable. Like he'd never play football again, stretch it off, and he's back, and he had a great season last year. And you're right about this. He's not going to, I'm sure insurances will kick in. He got a huge signing bonus, which goes right to your bank account. And what really matters to you much in life, because he is going to get that draw, Jeff, over the next couple of weeks when he starts to feel better. You know what, guys, I can come back. But we are waiting every time, Jeff, he takes the field. It literally feels like you're worried about him getting concussion. And just think of the weight of the family members, the teammates, the coaching staff, everybody around them. It is going to be an interesting decision that he's got to make.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, you're walking away from something. Look, when healthy, he's a good quarterback. He leads a great offense. We're not talking about, a few $1 million here. But what is he on a $250 million contract?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tons of guaranteed money, too.
Yeah, he's going to get guaranteed money, but, you want to play. You're a gamer. You want to be in there. As you said, you want to be a manly man and a football player. But, down the road again, and I'm not blaming certain guys, but there are guys that have done some awful things that can't get around. I mean, look, it's scary to think about. And we see guys that are, so good at not getting hit, avoiding confrontation, avoiding that big hit. I mean, look at quarterbacks that welcome a hit, right? And look at a Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was having a great career until that play on the goal line against the LA Rams in 2018, 2017, whatever that was. He was never the same player again. That wasn't a head injury, but those players that invite injuries, it's just not sustainable. It can't work. And we get on some of these guys. I saw a couple of guys over the weekend wearing those things on their heads, the helmets things.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, can you blame Jabril Peppers?
Yeah, some more people are wearing that, too, about Carson Wentz. You remember, Jeff, that home playoff game where I think it was Jadeveon Clowney just head splashed him into the ground. He wasn't the same after that deep concussion, which he wasn't even able to finish that game. Yeah, concussions are serious, and you don't really know the lasting effects probably for a couple of years down the line, but the one thing we do know, you play football long enough, you're going to get concussions, and that's going to be a problem later in life. So wish all the well here to Tua Tagovailoa. But that also brings up, Jeff, the topic of where do the Dolphins go from here? Because this was a team a lot of people thought could contend for the AFC East. I think that's out the window right now. Not only did they get smashed last night, you're going to Skylar Thompson, you're going to make a move for Ryan Tannehill. Like, where do the Dolphins go? Let's just say Tua is out for the season. let's forget about his career, just out for the season, or let's just say out for 8 or 9 weeks to make sure he's right. Where do they go from here? Is it a wrap on their season?
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, I can't see a particular situation where he just in 3 or 4 weeks he's back and ready to go again, right? But we're talking about retirement. We're talking about walking away from $250 million. This isn't just something where he's just going to be back in a month. Yeah. I mean, look, they're already a defense that's not very good. I mean, they haven't been able to get a stop in Miami for a long time. And this is the sad part because they have, as we know, a bunch of weapons. Achans looked like a great running back. It's really a shame. And now you're going with, look, Donnie, I think you're not a dumb guy. You know a lot about football. You know a lot more about me, lot more about it than me than the NFL. I mean, there's a reason Ryan Tannehill's a free agent, right? I mean, 32 other teams don't see it. I mean, he's not just going to come in and ball. The whole like Nick Foles thing doesn't happen much. And I remember when Nick Foles got injured, you know who they wanted to bring into Philadelphia? I heard calls on WIP for Colin Kaepernick. You hear anything. There's a reason certain guys aren't on teams, and Tannehill leads that pack.
We were talking about it last night, saying, like, who would you rather have? And it's actually funny the topic came up because I'm like, I don't know. The Eagles should trade, like, Kenny Pickett down, so at least you have a younger guy that's actually started games. And Tannehill's name came up, Jeff. My exact response is, man, there's a reason why that guy's not playing football on any team right now. It's because he's not going to help you out if he doesn't get your team.
I think he's the best option of, like, the Trevor Simeons and the Mike White types, but they got their next year.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere at this point. We'll be right back. It's Moneyline.
You can listen to SportsGrid on the radio, TV, our mobile app, or the internet.
And you don't need a nerd to hook you up.
Keep it here on the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1978, the Yankees come from 14 games down to take sole possession of the AL East against the Red Sox. Both teams were tied after 162 games with 99 wins, so it was a one-game playoff between the Yankees and Red Sox to determine the AL East. Yankees shortstop Bucky Dent.
I've never played in a game with more pressure than I did in that one game in October.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurchis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
New research reveals you can learn overnight by smelling strong odors combined with spoken instructions while you're asleep.
E equals MC squared.
Neurons associated with smell are hardwired to the brain centers of learning, memory, and emotion. While you're asleep, sniffing cigarette odor mixed with the smell of decomposing fish and rotten eggs makes you want to quit smoking. Stimulating the olfactory system, your sensory environment, smelling while sleeping may supercharge learning anything. Follow me at G Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Carver and Lisi.
Sal is on what, year 4? And Sal has been given a lot of passes. You got to pass because Zach Wilson was so horrible. You got to pass because Rodgers got hurt last year. Passes are over for Salah. This team goes 9-8 and they don't make it with a full year of Rodgers and he don't get hurt. I think they'd still chop him if they don't make the playoffs. And I know Woody's tired of doing that.
It's Carver and Lisi with Mike Carver and Joe Lisi. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. On the SportsGrid Radio Network.
There, Sporto.
We know you've been hurt in the past. Big stations with big promises lied to you. Suckered you in.
We don't do that.
We're the real deal.
You can take our information to the bank. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Moneyline, Donnie Wright's out here on a Football Friday with Jeff Nadeau, the big man on campus, breaking down some weekend action, Saturday college football, Sunday NFL action. Now, we're going to get to the NFL. This is one of those weeks that we call overreaction. And as Jeff and I coined the phrase maybe a decade ago, real big false flags out there that people are like, this side can't lose. This side's going to roll. We'll get to those in just a bit. But, Jeff, I know you love yourself some college football tomorrow. We got a lot of big games on the docket, and we'll just go over a few, and certainly you can add in some of those. But I want to start right at noon. Madison, Wisconsin. That's Alabama going up against Wisconsin. Line opened up around the 10 frame early look. It's up around 16.5 with a total of 49.5, and we'll start there. Does Wisconsin have a chance to hang around with the Alabama Crimson Tide this weekend, in your opinion?
I don't think, no. This is a weird game. You ask yourself, why is Alabama going to Wisconsin? I don't understand this. That said, I've said it for weeks, months, years. I don't understand the offense Wisconsin's trying to run. Seems like they just don't have the personnel to run the offense they want to run. And I feel like the old offense could hang around in games because they could just pound the rock, and they don't have that type of running back. There's no Ron Dane on this team. There's no Melvin Gordon on this team. I just think their personnel, Van Dyke, I'm not a big fan of. Again, we go back to why quarterbacks aren't at certain places. I mean, there's a reason Van Dyke's on his second team. Again, Alabama's been dominant. They've shut down two really good G5 offenses in Western Kentucky and South Florida. They kind of pulled away in both those games. Big plays. The defense looks pretty strong. I'm not running to back Wisconsin. You're not really getting a great price here. I mean, look, if you're getting 22, maybe you take a shot here, but 16.5, I mean, 30 to 14, 30 to 13, 30 to 10. I mean, those are losers. So I'm not running to back Wisconsin here. I don't think their offense is very good.
You know, it's funny, Jeff, you when you talk about Wisconsin, like changing, like some teams and some schools just have to win a certain way. Like you look at Iowa. Let's just say Jeff Iowa goes, you know what? We're going to move on for Kirk Ferentz and bring in a guy that's going to run 5-wide shotgun. You're not going to get the athletes to Iowa to do that, and you get hammered. Because I know you love Army-Navy football, Army specifically here. There was a time, Jeff, I can't remember the exact years, but when they changed coach, like we're going to try to go into the new millennium and throw the football, they were so bad because they can't get the same athletes. The only way they can win is by doing that constant ground and pound running game, which nobody else does, and they have the advantage of it. So it is funny to see like Wisconsin, 30 straight years of, let me just get the meanest, nastiest offensive line in here and a really good high school running back and tell him, I'll give you the football 40 times a game. And the strategy worked. Like maybe not national championship-wise, but competing in the Big Ten, making bowl games every year. Now you start to open it up, and you have a passing offense where Tyler Van Dyke threw 2 games, and one of those games just against a clown college, only 1 touchdown pass. Now you welcome in, certainly, Alabama. Let me ask you about this one, Jeff. Noon kickoff again tomorrow. ACC, Florida State's 0-2. Memphis coming to town, close to a touchdown favorite. What are the expectations from Memphis, but also, can Florida State get off the carpet and compete in the ACC this year, or is it just a wrap already?
Well, this game, we're going to learn a lot about them. I know they're 0-2, and we've learned a good amount about them already, but they're off a bye. They've looked themselves in the mirror, and they felt sorry for themselves. Now it's time to move on. You got a game back at home. This is a G5 team. That said, as you know, Memphis is very good. This is probably the best group of 5 out there. They've got a great quarterback in Seth Hennigan. I think a lot of people are going to be goaded into taking Memphis, and for good reason here. But I think the difference here is, though, like in both games that Florida State lost, they were big favorites, above 10 points. This is a 6.5-point number. This game could be close the entire way. I mean, Florida State could be losing at halftime. All you got to do is tie it up. You're only going to win by 7 to cover this number. I bet the over here. I think both these offenses move the ball. Florida State's third down defense has been atrocious, Donnie. They've allowed at least, I think, around 65% of their opponents' third downs to be converted. They can't get off the field. Memphis, as I said, great offense, good quarterback, but I don't love their defense. Never have, never will. Manageable number here. It's only, I think, 53.5. I like the over a little bit. I think both teams can get to the high 20s.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out, too, because it's one of those where Florida State doesn't have much behind DJ Uiagalelei. Like, they go out in the open market, bring him in as their quote-unquote free agent quarterback, pay him some money, and it's been disastrous over the first 2 games. But it's not as if they have, like, a hot shot waiting behind him that you're waiting to sub in. But also, if you're at home against Memphis, you don't have any wins on the season as Florida State doesn't. And then you're really going to show up and say, we're down at the break. We're still going to go with DJ Uiagalelei. That's certainly something to keep an eye on. But it is interesting where the ACC, unlike Notre Dame, if you win your conference, Jeff, as you know, you get that automatic bid into the college football playoff. They got to start somewhere. Maybe they start this weekend against Memphis. A couple more college football games will hit, then we'll flip it over to the NFL slate. It's a Football Friday right here on the SportsGrid Network. It's Sonny Rightside. Special guest, Jeff Nadeau, breaking it all down. We'll continue after these words.
Sports happens every day, and we give you expert insights and information on gaming, odds, and more.
Every day.
You see a trend?
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Back to pass. Allen wide open to Cook in the left flat, racing to the end zone. And is he in? Yes, he is. The Cook has found the kitchen.
The action on Bills Radio, 31-10, the win over the Dolphins last night in Miami. Josh Allen, 13 of 19 passing, 1 touchdown, 139 yards. He connected with James Cook. Cook also rushed the ball 11 times for 78 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Jamarcus Ingram intercepted Tua Tagovailoa's pass on a tip ball on Miami's opening drive. Tagovailoa left the game with a concussion. Backup quarterback Mitchell Trubisky took over. Miami coach Mike McDaniel didn't specify if the team will place Tagovailoa on the injured reserve. He'll be reevaluated today. Buffalo is 2-0 to start the season, while Miami drops to 1-1. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Everybody. Great job. Next up for our 5th grade class recital, we have Samantha.
10 times better performance can make a big difference. Castrol Edge Motor Oil gives your engine 10 times better high-stress performance. Castrol Edge, better oil for maximum performance. Now through December 28th, Castrol Edge and Edge High Mileage Motor Oil are on rollback at Walmart.
Claim based on Sequence 9 test under high-load conditions versus API SP test limits.
Progressive presents Renters MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Joe Fallon's bedroom mini fridge. Sure, this pint-sized chiller's max capacity is 3 soda cans, but what it lacks in stature, it makes up in cooling strength. Each beverage a perfect 37 degrees every time. And the 2 feet Joe walks to get a drink, priceless. That's why his mini fridge is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
You're listening to sports gaming strategies and information you can trust. But we know what you really want.
I mean, who's kidding who here? Am I right?
Well, guess what, Sporto?
That's part of the winning edge, too.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Rolling through the best hour of your day right here on the Sports Grid Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. It's Donnie Rightside, Jeff Nadeau. It's a football Friday. And by the way, guys, once again, shout out to the people in the chat box. Sports Grid on demand on YouTube. When we are on radio now, each and every one of our radio shows, we'll go live. Get that notification. Get in the chat box. Come in here and say hello. Got a lot of diehards out that have been listening for a long time. Now they're able to get through, ask questions, have some fun, respond back, talk to the guests. It's what we love to do. And, Jeff, by the way, we got a long history of being in those chat boxes and building them up and having a lot of fun out there in the past, man.
Yeah. I remember many years ago. I was looking at old videos that I was in, 2017, all the many years.
Great.
And we did a lot of shows, man. A lot of old school people. There's a lot of people still supporting me, man. That have been around. Yeah. So it's fun.
The OGs, man. The OGs, Jeff, the Spreaker days back in the day, play a little music for about a minute and a half, wait for 2 to 3 people to get in there, and then let it rip. We've been around the block a long time, but the technology is great. Anytime, because I know, Jeff, you've been through it all. You're one of the guys I always say, like, the grinders of the content business. Like, you need Jeff to go live. He's always going live, but it's just good to see, like, the YouTube chat boxes are still around and you can still share information, because even if you're not a host, right, it feels good, like, when you type something in there, good, bad, indifferent, pick or not, like the host will see it and respond back. It's still a great medium, and we're trying to build that up here at the Sports Grid Network. Once again, it's great.
Yeah, it really is. I know in like some of the sit down stuff I do, we have a good chat. I mean, there's all sorts of communities that are on YouTube, and people like to make their voice heard. So yeah, I see a lot of people here. I mean, like Akbar, I remember that guy. He's been around for a while,
long time, man. Love him.
Yeah, a lot of supportive people.
Yeah, a lot of great people here. Let's talk one more college football game, Jeff, over this weekend before we flip it over to the NFL. Talk to me about Notre Dame. Unbelievably devastating loss, which I think probably everybody sitting in their living room was rooting for NIU outside of true Notre Dame fans, or if you had money there. 28.5-point dog. They win that game outright. Notre Dame now goes on the road against Purdue, and Marcus Freeman said, yeah, maybe we were smelling ourselves just a little bit too much. I love these type of games. What do we get out of Notre Dame this weekend and for the rest of the season, in your opinion?
Seems like every year, though, they do that, right? They lose a game like that every year. I don't know why. And it's always the same excuse. Well, we're Notre Dame, and even though they're Eastern Kentucky, they just We smelled ourselves a little too much. My thought is they bounce back. There's some 9.5s out there with this one. It's up to 10 in most spots. Purdue, we don't really know what they are. They've only played weirdly one game, kind of bizarre. They had a week one game, and they haven't played since then. They played Indiana State. What do you glean from that? Purdue last year really struggled to get stops. They had a quarterback, Hudson Card, who used to be at Texas. He's a guy that can move the ball. You look at his first game against Indiana State, 24 for 25, 273 and 4 touchdowns. Nice stat line there. Awful loss. You'd figure Notre Dame bounces back. But again, going on the road, this is kind of an in-state little brother type of team. I don't know. Anything under 10 seems interesting. I love Notre Dame in the first game. I thought they were really good. Their defense looked great. It just seems like they kind of lose focus, and that comes down a lot of the time to the coaching.
Yeah, and also Riley Leonard. I mean, come on, man. Just Riley Leonard. I don't even know if Notre Dame didn't throw a pass in that football game, they probably would win it. But shout out NIU. They came prepared, knocked Notre Dame off, and who knows if Notre Dame can even get back in to the playoff picture. Even with one loss, that's a devastating loss to have on your resume, Jeff. Let's flip it over to the NFL on Sunday and have some fun. Other topics that came out. How about this? Congratulations through Dove Kleiman. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts is now engaged to his long-term girlfriend, Brianna Rivera Burrows. So speaking of that, the reason why I wanted to bring that up, Jeff, last name, it's Burrows. Let's go over to the NFL to a Joe Burrow for Cincinnati, taking on Patrick Mahomes. Line opened up at 3.5, ballooned to 5.5, some 6s at this point right now. You're never as bad as you were week number 1. You're never as good as you are. Kansas City had a de facto bye week since playing on Thursday night. Now coming back to this. Let me start here before we get to the game. Your opinion of Cincinnati after watching them against New England, turmoil in the locker room, owners not wanting to pay their top wide receiving talent. What do you make of the Bengals? Like 0-1 at this point now.
I think the product they have currently is bad. This is a bad team. I mean, and look, I've talked about it with Burrow. He is not backable in weeks 1 through 3. He just has shown time and time again he's ineffective. I think he's injured. It looks like they're not going to have T. Higgins yet again. That was just posted recently. They're going to be without him. Jamar Chase is pissed off. They lose Joe Mixon. I mean, Jermaine Burton's been out. Their rookie, a receiver they brought in. I mean, I don't even know some of these guys that are the second and third receivers.
How about Yoshi Vosh on that team, Jeff? Come on now.
Yeah, a kid out of Princeton. I don't know what this team is offensively. It doesn't surprise me. I know, my friend Ryan, he called me on Sunday. He said, I love the Patriots today. I said, I got to tell you, I kind of like them myself. And it went out right. Yeah, this team can't be backed until further notice. You got to get the Jamar Chase stuff figured out, which, by the way, I mean, look, I get you want the most amount of money, but I think you're being a little petty at this point with some of the things going on. That said, you don't have Higgins, you don't have Burton, you don't have Joe Mixon. Zach Moss, a nice player, but I'm not running to back him. And I think people are recognizing you can't back Joe Burrow early in the season. I will say this, though. You mentioned Jalen Hurts, Donnie.
Yes.
In a world where every week I see an athlete get involved with the wrong woman, doing the wrong thing, I always wonder with these athletes, these young, really rich, attractive people, why don't they look and go after people on the same level as them? And Jalen Hurts, it seems like he's found a woman throughout his high school, college career. She's a good woman. She has a good job, I believe, very supportive. Good for him. He's a good leader, quiet guy. You don't hear much from him. That's what you want from a quarterback.
Very understated off the field. And that is sometimes, it's interesting because usually the quarterback is the guy like, let me slam down 10 beers, let me take the boys out for a night. That's not Jalen Hurts, that quiet leader that works his tail off in the offseason.
You know how I knew, when I knew Jalen Hurts was the man? And it was quite recently. I already liked Jalen Hurts to begin with, even though I went viral for telling them they shouldn't have taken him. Frankie Beverly died recently, and Frankie Beverly was a Philly legend.
To the concert. Yeah, he went to the concert. Yeah, saw that. Yep.
Sure. He was a big Frankie Beverly fan, and he talked about the passing of Frankie Beverly. I said, wow, he's a young kid. What is he, 25? And he shouted out Frankie Beverly. I thought that was a cool, classy move by him.
Yeah, when he got – who was it, Jeff, by the way, when he got his big contract? It was one of the big stars, woman singer, legend. Why is it? It's not Patti LaBelle. Patti LaBelle said his flowers there. Like he's that old soul. Like if you said what's on your your headphones before the game. Yeah, exactly. What's on your Spotify? You'd be surprised. It's probably a lot of 50s, 60s, 70s out there just mellowing. Yeah.
He's going to say like Billy Paul and like Bill Withers and Frankie Beverly. Like, listen, when I go to the cigar bar, I always love when I hear like a Billy Paul song. My father loved Billy Paul. I love that kind of stuff. So good for him. He's a good kid, good guy, and seems like he found a good woman. So good for him.
Old soul right there. By the way, Kansas City, they're favored by under a touchdown, Jeff. So I know that I'm not putting you on the spot, but because for me, I look at this game and we know better. And I say this by saying a long time, been around the block. You see those lines that go, Kansas City's going to roll this team. Then you find out this week and you're watching like, oh no, it's a tie game. Same thing, Jeff, as you're talking about New England. Nobody wanted to technically back New England. And everybody in their, survivor pool is going like, just take Cincinnati. It doesn't matter who plays because of how bad New England is. And then say, wait a second. New England's up double digits at the break and Cincinnati can't score. It happens all the time, particularly early in the season. But if you said even today, knowing what I know, I still feel like I would be on Kansas City this weekend straight up. I really would.
And I think that's what Bettors, Sharp, Square, everybody's thinking. I just don't think you can back Joe Burrow in this team. There's just not much talent on this group. You got to go on the road. They're kind of a maligned group. I thought their defense played pretty well, and they got to hope they can do that in this kind of game. But, Donnie, when I see 70% of the bets on Cincinnati, but 85% of the actual money's on numbers moving the right way. If this number was a question, it would have remained 3, 4. It's up to 6. Maybe if it comes to 7, 7.5, you come back on the Bengals. But, I can't do that. Not at this point.
Exactly. No, it's one of those games that just sticks out like a sore thumb at this point. Certainly we'll continue to talk some NFL action, just setting the table for this one. New Orleans and Dallas we'll talk about after the break. New Orleans absolutely smashed Carolina this week, and a lot of people are going to smash Carolina in the next parts. Dallas gets a nice win in Cleveland, embarrasses them. Who's going to win that game? Much more with the big man on campus. We got it for another segment, people. Let's use them here. We'll be right back. It's the best hour of your day, and it is underway.
The only sure thing in this world is the fact that there are no sure things. That's why you get expert perspective, strategies, and info. Here. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. Shop Chuck Sanders.
Here's the snap. Handoff goes to Cook, and he sails into the end zone for his second touchdown of the game. 1 receiving, 1 rushing.
The action on Bills Radio, 31-10, the win over the Dolphins last night in Miami. Buffalo 2-0 with the win. The Dolphins dropped to 1-1. College football on Thursday. Arizona State improved to 3-0 with a 31-28 win at Texas State. 4 touchdowns, 268 passing yards for Joe McLeod. South Alabama ran away with an 87-10 victory over Northwestern State. 2 games on the schedule tonight. 1-1 Kansas at home against 2-0 UNLV. Top 20 matchup for number 14 Kansas State. The 2-0 Wildcats hosting the 2-0 Arizona Wildcats, who are number 20. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Right now at Macy's, it's the perfect time to start looking ahead to fall. Shop all the on-trend wardrobe updates you can wear now and keep wearing later, like flowy full-length dresses and easy lightweight layers, like blazers, cardigans, and jackets. And Macy's has great deals on fall updates for every room in your home, like warm bedding and kitchen essentials. Plus, download the app for exclusive savings, inspiration, and more today at Macy's.
What's better than 1 win? 3 wins. With Straight Savings, you keep your own phone, get 1 line for only $25 a month with real unlimited data, and get rewarded with a $200 phone credit after 12 months. It's a win-win-win. Head to Walmart or visit straighttalk.com today. Switch to Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Straight Savings Plan enrollment requires compatible unlocked device and new line of service. Bonus device credit requires 12 months of active service. Offer ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. Taxes and fees apply. For network management practices, see Straight Talk's terms and conditions.
If you don't know where to start in sports gaming,
here's some good news.
You already have. You're listening to us. We're your source for gaming odds and more. This is where you'll find it.
This is the way.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Yeah, man. A few minutes left here with Jeff Nadeau, the big man on campus, always doing big things across the landscape. And one thing he does the best probably, it's sports handicapping. And by the way, Jeff, quick point. 50 or so days before college basketball kicks off. I know you are always ready and on the grind. It's so crazy how once you get into the fall, how good we have it throughout all the way through like the Final Four. You just got to enjoy it because as me and Jeff talk right now, we'll be talking sooner or later. Hey, Jeff, week 13 in the NFL. How you feeling about it? So you got to cherish these moments here, which includes a game at 1 o'clock on Sunday, New Orleans and Dallas. If I'm looking at the ticket count here, Jeff, 72% here on New Orleans. That line opened up at 6.5. It's still sitting at 6.5 at most outlets here. Are we trusting New Orleans of what we saw? 47 points against the Panthers. But Dallas looked pretty good there in a winning effort against the Cleveland Browns on the road. Dallas comes home. What are those trust levels? Because our eyes will deceive us in week number 1.
I mean, but you look across the board, I don't think you could glean much from beating Carolina. Carolina sucks. I mean, we all know that. But you look at everything New Orleans did. I mean, they held Carolina to under 200 yards. I mean, they only had 11 first downs, only 1 third down conversion. I mean, outside of 10 penalties, I mean, New Orleans played a sparkling football game. I mean, they were terrific. Derek Carr looked more than just like a serviceable quarterback. That said, here's my problem with betting against the Dallas Cowboys at home. Every game at home last year, they won by more than a touchdown. And all but one, they won by more than 14. So they weren't just beating teams last year. They were dissecting teams last year at home. So it's hard for me to fade the Cowboys. I mean, at anything under 7. I do think that we overreact a bit. I also think maybe we overreacted a little bit to Dallas. But then again, did we? I mean, I thought they were great defensively. But to be fair, I mean, I don't know. They only had 265 yards, only 4 yards of play. They weren't great on third down, and Dak Prescott was good enough. I mean, I think it was more or less, though, Donnie, that Deshaun Watson was just so bad. The Browns' offense is so poor. If this gets above 7, I think you'll see a lot of people jumping on Dallas. Let's move it up. I'm lukewarm. I liked this game earlier in the week, but now that I'm starting to see it as we get closer and closer, it's not really budging much. That has me kind of cause for concern.
Man, there is some bad quarterback play out there this weekend again. And you even talk about like last night, not a lot of touchdown passes. I thought low 30s touchdown passes for week number 1, when just a few years ago, Jeff, they were into the 60s with the total combined touchdown passes in week number 1, which brings me to my next game, because these are the fun ones where we don't actually know how it's going to play out. The Indianapolis Colts, who played a decent football game, 9 of 19 out of Richardson. A lot of big plays, a lot of plays he missed. The inconsistency is there, but he's going to take on Green Bay, which typically would say, hey, Jordan Love's on the opposite side. They're going to be favored in that game. They should win. But now we see Indianapolis go on the road as a field goal favorite at most outlets, taking on Green Bay with Malik Willis. Like, what happens with the Green Bay Packers, and what do you do with a game like this, in your opinion?
Well, I'll tell you what we do. I think you have to watch these games and understand what exactly happened. I watched a lot of the Colts last week. I had the Colts. I was able to get inside the number, but I also watched the game over and say, I mean, Anthony Richardson made some throws he's not likely to make again. I mean, they were just kind of a throw it up and pray and hope Alec Pierce comes down to it. And he did. They also went for a touchdown late when they probably should have kicked a field goal. Their defense was horrific. I mean, they could not get stopped in the game. It seemed like the Texans just moved up and down the field. I don't know. Malik Willis is, I mean, he's not exactly a complete stranger. He has played before. I think a lot of people thought he was going to be a solid quarterback when he was drafted by Tennessee. I liked him coming out of Liberty. It's not a bad situation to go into. I mean, you have a couple of good receivers. You have a pretty decent defense, but you're coming off a 10-hour trip. What is it? A week later, essentially 8 days later. I don't know. I'm not interested in laying 3 on the road with the Colts. I like them as a dog. I'm not interested in laying points with them. What we saw in week 1 is not likely to happen again. They probably should have gotten beaten by 10 last week. Something tells me that this game is very close and it comes down to a field goal. I'd really love a 3.5 with Green Bay if it pops up. I'd probably bet that.
Malik Willis. By the way, what do we do with the Cleveland Browns at this point? Because you're right. Most people, that was the 4 o'clock, 4:25 game. Even if you don't have the dish or get the ticket, that was on your TV. Deshaun Watson gets paid so much money, Jeff, and he literally looks worse than like your third-string quarterback on an average team just trying to hang on to the practice squad. They're going to take on Jacksonville this week. Game opened up at 1.5. It's now up to 3. But I'm seeing a lot of ticket counts here on the Cleveland Browns as they expect them to bounce back. David Njoku's out in this game. Deshaun Watson looked terrible. Jacksonville let one slip away against Miami. How do you play Cleveland here?
Well, I think all you can do is probably play the under. I mean, we do know they're a pretty good defense, but they're kind of like the Bengals in terms of like they're throwing 45 times a game with Deshaun Watson, but they can't run because they don't have any personnel to run it with. You look at in that game against the Dallas Cowboys, their second leading rusher was Deshaun Watson. Their running backs are Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong Jr. They don't have Nick Chubb. You mentioned they're not going to have Njoku. I don't know where you go here. I mean, you can't have Deshaun Watson throwing 45, 50 times a game. That said, I mean, if I'm looking at a game, going forward with them, we know their defense is pretty good. I think you got to lean probably under, and bettors have. This open 43.5. It's down to 41.5, 41. You're kind of off that key number of 42, which sucks, but maybe Browns team total under. I don't think they can keep up with the Jags. I know that. I feel like this is kind of a decent price to play the Jags. You're not laying 6.5, 7. You're laying 3 at 105. So I don't hate this. Jags seem to find ways to lose games, though. Them and the Titans are just hard to back. They just find ways to lose every week, it seems like.
Both those teams just mentioned should have easy wins yesterday, just gave it away late. And speaking of one of those teams that gave it away late was Tennessee. I mean, Will Levis. I mean, they got up, 17-0 in that game. If they took a knee the rest of the way, they would have beat the Chicago Bears. But Will Levis is like, hey, you know what? Let's throw terrible interceptions, get block punts for touchdowns, and that's what happens. Give me the answer on this one. The New York Jets, we saw them. They got busted up by the 49ers. But I thought Aaron Rodgers looked okay. Is this a bounce back this weekend against a Will Levis-led Tennessee team? They're favored by 3.5 on the road here. Any looks in that Jets-Tennessee Titans game?
Well, what Titans team do you get? Do you get the first half or the second half?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the Bears got 100 yards. I mean, they should have.
The Bears were terrible. Yeah.
But I like the Titans outside of Levis. It's kind of my problem with them. I wish they had like a Kirk Cousins or someone that was at least serviceable. Levis stinks. Jets should bounce back. That defense will look bad. You can run the ball all over the Jets. That run defense sucked, Donnie. Straight up.
It was bad. He's the big man on campus. Football Fridays on the SportsGrid Network. Yeah, Jeff's going to be around and having some fun. Jeff, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next Friday. Good luck on your wagers this weekend. We'll be right back. Closing.
You can hear SportsGrid on the radio, internet, TV, satellite, and our mobile app.
And we're working on airport and grocery store PA systems.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channel dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Morency on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Sports Rage Late Night.
What catches your eye this week? NFL football.
Rams and the Cardinals, they're dangerous, the Rams, and I'm not worried about the Cardinals at all. The Raiders just lost by 12 points to the Chargers, and now they go to the Ravens, and that line's only 9.5. I think that's a steal. I will fade the Raiders all season long.
It's Sports Rage Late Night with Gabe Morency. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 10 p.m. Eastern on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Football Friday on the SportsGrid Network. I'm excited for this weekend, guys. And you know how we get down. Pro Football Today live in studio, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It was fantastic last week. Swept a lot of my bets. And I'm looking to do it again this week to have some fun because I need to make it back. Lost money last night in that football game. I don't even know how I did that. How could I have lost money in that game? 3 touchdown runs from James Cook. Yeah, I needed one of them. That was great. But my goodness, wish the Miami Dolphins would have participated yesterday so I could cash in on some of that money. But the only bet I hit was the James Cook anytime touchdown at a plus 175 price. But we do move it over to this weekend. Some updates, too. That's Cincinnati-Kansas City game. T. Higgins will not be playing. Hamstring injury out week number 2. Told you guys before. He got his money this year. He's not in the long-term plans of the Cincinnati Bengals. Don't you dare risk further injury to that hamstring. Take as long as you can to heal. Mike Brown caused that situation. Who knows if Jamar Chase is actually going to show up. And the one interesting thing on the opposite side for Kansas City, Hollywood Brown injured his shoulder in the preseason. They were trying to wait it out, figuring that he could avoid surgery and come back sooner than later. They just placed him on IR, weren't happy with the healing process. He's going to get surgery. He's going to be down multiple weeks. So a tough blow there for Kansas City as they head into a game this weekend with the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think it matters. And again, it might be square, and he put a, hey, I got to take Cincinnati. They were horrendous last week. So there's no way, shape, or any time I can bet on the Cincinnati Bengals this week or for the foreseeable future until they get everybody back in the room and everybody happy. So Mike Brown, continue to count your pennies and your nickels that you find in the couch and don't pay your best players. Good luck with that. We'll see how it turns out. But you are headed to 0-2 very quick. And 0-2 usually is a death nail. Now, there's 17 games now instead of 16, so you can't go 0-3, but I don't think they're going to get off the carpet this week. I think Kansas City gets a victory there. By the way, yesterday, Major League Baseball did have 2 plays out. It was on Game Time Decisions with Kevin Walsh. Connor Norby at a plus 160 price. He ended up getting an RBI, cashed that ticket. But I did lose Aaron Judge at a plus 120 number yesterday. That guy's in a power drought, isn't he? No home runs, 15, 16, 17, 18 games, whatever it's going to be at this point now. So despite hitting 50 on the season, we were thinking he might get close to 60, 63 home runs, challenge his own record. He's not going to get there. He's been definitely a power slump. Now, the Yankees did pick up that victory yesterday, but that offense just is not working right now. They better get that cranked up and in gear moving forward. But baseball is coming down the stretch. Philly's playing good baseball, trying to hold off the Dodgers there for that number 1 overall seed. A full slate tonight. And there are some bad pitchers out there on the card that we might want to get down on. If I have any plays in Major League Baseball, make sure you give me a follow on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it, at RightSideVP. We are focused on football. There's a couple college football games tonight. You know, I'm not really involved in that. Games on Saturday look intriguing to me, but my focus, as always, is going to be on Sunday. Here's the question for everybody out there. Looking at some of these totals, right? 41.5, 38.5. 46.5 is a high watermark, it feels like, for New Orleans and Dallas. 51.5 for Detroit, Tampa. That's going to be a fun game. But the Green Bay game, 40.5. Cleveland game, 41.5. What's some other lower numbers? Seattle, New England, 38.5. Jets in Tennessee, 41.5. Giants, Washington, 42.5. Is there any other lower? Oh, look at this. Pittsburgh and Denver, barn burner, 36.5. By the way, intriguing game on Monday Night Football. Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, we'll be back on the air for Moneyline on Monday to break that game down. But I got to tell you, I'm feeling Bijan Robinson. I'm really feeling Bijan Robinson out here. I think he's going to be pretty good. 62.5, I think his rushing prop is. Anytime touchdown marker, plus 110, plus 120, depending where you're shopping at. I think Bijan has a really good day. Because the one thing I did like about opening day with their loss to the Steelers, he got 18 carries. Tyler Algier, next closest running back, 3 total carries. And he did get over 60 yards in that game. And you saw the Philadelphia Eagles in game number 1. It's hard to grade a game where you're playing on ice skates. I understand that. The Eagles' rush defense was giving it up like a sieve out there. And maybe Bijan Robinson can crack through. But that's Monday's game. But those Sunday slates coming through, I love the NFL early in the season. Number 1, it's fun to handicap. It's good to see it back. But number 2, we get the full game slates. Nobody's out here on bye weeks. And, it's a short slate in the afternoon. There's 7 1 o'clock games, only 2 4 o'clock games. We don't have that. We have a nice balance and mix. The 4:25 games this weekend, Cincinnati, Kansas City, we'll have our eyes on that. Pittsburgh and Denver, you might want to take a nap during that football game. But my goodness, Bo Nix threw like 45 times in game number 1 for like 1.1 yards per passing attempt. That's got to improve, but good luck doing that against a Pittsburgh defense. We're also waiting for those answers to be, the questions to be answered on Cleveland. Are they going to get up off the carpet? Green Bay with Malik Willis at quarterback. How are they going to fare? And also, more importantly, are the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints for real? One of those teams is going to move to 2-0 and might be a problem in the NFC. Wouldn't it be crazy if that 2-0 team was actually the New Orleans Saints? A huge card this weekend on Sunday. Can't wait to let it play out here. But as I told you, The boys will be in studio on Sunday for Pro Football Today at 10 a.m., ready to rock. For Chris behind the wheels of steel, Donnie Wright's out on a solo mission. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you back on Monday.
Confused, lost in an